Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better technology. Today we're lucky enough to be joined by Jules Brooke. Jules is founder and owner of Handle Your Own PR and also TV host of She's the Boss on Ticker TV. Thanks for joining us, Jules.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And off the back of a phone call that we got introduced and welcome and came into the podcast.
We
so
did
really
for a guy that
Yes.
I know that
Yes.
Red Gum Technologies.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so from one tech to another, and I, believe me, am not a tech.
Well, it's a perfect person to be on the podcast.
Excellent.
So, Jules, tell us a little bit about yourself and how Handle Your Own PR came about.
Okay, so I had, I don't even know where to start, but basically I started a PR company because I got a PR client before I had a PR company.
Interesting. Yeah,
So
okay.
I met, you probably guys haven't heard of him, but there's a very well-known comedian called Mark Mitchell, who had a
No,
character
don't know
called
him.
Con the Fruiterer.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
Con the Fruiterer was quite successful and well known.
Yes.
And he met me at a party with a friend who does PR. Didn't realise that I actually had a graphic design company at the time.
Okay.
And rang me 2 weeks after we met and said, Jules, they're bringing out a best of Con the Fruiterer DVD, and we really want you. And I've told them that you're the best person to do the PR. And I kind of went, shit. I've never done PR before, but it was, there was good money dangling, and so I rang all my mates who did PR and said, "How about you do it? I'll take the job. You do it. I'll do all the client facing." And they went, "No, too busy. I think you should do it." So I set up a PR company, teaching myself how to do PR basically, and then I brought in staff who were friends who were worked in shops, and there was a waiter, and there was a phone selling person, all sorts of different people, and I taught them how to do PR. And then the GFC hit, so the global financial crisis in 2008, and our clients really started peeling off. In a recession, PR stops being a really important thing for people.
Right?
And so I guess I was kind of looking around at what was happening in the rest of the world, and I came across a website from a woman in England who was selling media contact lists and telling people how to go directly to the media. It was just a really simple page on back in the days, God, it was 2003, so it wasn't a slick website at all.
Yep.
But I remember thinking, oh my God, that's really clever. And if there's one thing I know, it's that the media desperately wants content and really loves innovation. And that these people had fantastic stories to tell. And really, if they couldn't afford me, I should just show them how to go directly. So that's really where it all started. And so I registered Handle Your Own PR. We built our first website, which I think I had done for $200. And it was, I would say conservatively, 20,000 words. So a lot of explanation. And then we were selling media contact lists at $3,000 each.
Okay.
Because I kind of had the logic of, if you're paying $3,000 a month and someone gives it to you and you can do it forever, then of course $3,000 is going to be fine for a media contact list. So there have been quite a lot of iterations along the way.
Okay.
So that was our first website. I think within a month we realised that wasn't going to work. So then we had another website built by another company.
Yes.
And what we did was we made much more about the media contact list, much less copy on there. And then what we did was we went to a CRM company and got them to bolt their CRM on the back of it. So that was the first time, I guess, that I even had a vague idea
what
of
technology
how
was.
websites worked
Yeah.
and what a CRM was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then after that, I built another website, which I thought looked gorgeous, that was again selling media contact lists, but by this stage, rather than making them cheaper, we just broke them into smaller amounts. So you could buy 20 contacts for, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, $150 or something. And it was all very bright and colourful, and that started to have a bit of traction for us. And then around 2012, I decided that I didn't want to do PR for anyone anymore. I really just wanted to focus on the teaching. So my business partner at the time said to me, "You have made the biggest mistake." But I said to her, "You take the agency, I'm going to go with Handle Your Own PR." And I kind of muddled on for another year or so. And then in 2014, I decided to take the plunge. I sold my house.
Oh, sold your
I
house.
know,
You're
crazy.
not the only one.
No entrepreneur should really do that, but I know lots that have.
Yes.
And put the money into the website. Again, not having, you don't know what you don't know in technology, and that's, I guess, my biggest learning. And so I had employed these guys. We were doing a 20 grand build on a website. We were 18 grand into it, so I was just about to sign off, and I met
Yes.
this other guy who was a digital marketing guy.
Okay.
And he said, "What a pity you've gone so far down the road, because if it was me, I would have done it differently." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I would have made it that people go onto the platform and start writing their media releases and
Yes.
build their media contact lists all on the online." And I was like, "Really? Can you do that?" And he went, yeah, you can do it. And I said, "Well, I mean, I've nearly spent 20 grand already. How much is it going to cost?" And he said, "Oh, I reckon we should be able to get it done in a couple of months, because you've got most of the content on there. And I think it should be no more than about another 10,000. And I said, "Great, let's go for it." And $150,000 later, he walked away halfway through the build.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he had employed people overseas to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had no handover notes other than a couple of bits of gobbledygook that meant nothing. I had no money left. I had a platform that was really a liability. I couldn't put it out in public because it just had too many bugs in it. And I froze. I just didn't know what to do. It's such a good story for anyone in technology.
Yeah,
like,
scary
I know what
position
you're
to be
doing
in.
first.
Yeah.
So there was no plan.
Okay.
There was no idea who had built what,
Yeah.
how far away we were. This guy had been doing the designing. So I didn't have a designer that could do anything. So it was all a bit of a mess, and I really didn't know what to do for about 2 months. And then I rang a guy. I've been a judge for a lot of startup sort of pitch fests, and he was a co-judge at an event.
Okay.
And we just got on really, really well. And so I rang him and I said, "I don't know what to do. Like,
Goodness
I
me.
literally, I've got 3 kids. I'm a single mum. Like, what am I going to do?" And he said, "I think we should do a really huge offer out to people and get some money in the bank, and then we can use the money to build things." I'd had this business by then for 4 or 5 years, so I had a pretty
Okay.
good rep out there, but it was just not enough people knew. And so we did a huge mail out to the database offering them a lifetime use of the platform
Yes.
for $400.
Okay.
And where I thought I might make a little bit of money, 80 people signed up, and we had 40 grand in the bank within 3 weeks.
Okay.
And
That's
that kind of changed everything.
helped.
Yep.
Because it proved the model. And it also kind of said to me, if things start getting tough, you can do another sale.
There's an option now, right?
Yeah, and those people really, I mean, I was very honest with them. I said, there are going to be bugs. You're kind of like my test market anyway. And I will give you special offers before I give them to anyone else, etc., etc. And so that's what we did. And really from then, and my other absolute blessing was this guy who is a VC and an exit strategist, had started out his life as a digital marketer and knew about websites and knew intimately how to set up a CRM system. So he then, God love him, and he really has been a blessing in my life, spent about 40 to 60 hours a week working on it for the next year to get it right. So we've moved it all into Kartra now. I don't know if you know that system. We did a huge CRM system in the back of it. So Kartra is a CRM system that you can build web pages on it.
Okay.
So we've got the SaaS platform sitting there with what used to be a WordPress front end.
Yes.
That's now a Kartra front end that's got this very, very slick and clever kind of CRM system as part of it. And that's about as much as I know about technology. I've given it to you all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, I love it. So let's take a few steps back.
Go for it.
So you were building. What was the original website you're building? And you said it was $20,000 budget. What were you
It was from scratch again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just said to them, I want it to be something. Having learned from what had happened, I said it needs to be something that if you and I fall out, I can get anyone to work on it. So I think that's called open source.
Yeah,
I don't really know whether it is.
That's okay. But what objectives were you trying to achieve with that website?
So
was that selling lists again, or what was the difference?
At the time, I was thinking that I wanted to sell the media list, but I wanted people to be able to build their own. So I had about between 3 and 10, depending on how active we call them, journalists on a database. 10K, sorry. And it was all about, one of the things that I had found over the years is that when people decide that they want to go out to the media, they don't know whether they should buy a fashion list or a business media list or whatever,
So not
or
really
they want
context
bits
there.
of some of them. So I thought, well, okay, let people buy it, build them themselves. So that was kind of where it had started, but I didn't know how to brief them very well because I didn't really know what was possible.
Understand.
So they started building a system that was going to allow people to come on. I don't know whether you've ever seen medialists.com.au.
No.
Mailinglists.com.au.
I think we might have looked at something like that one point in time.
Launched around the same time as me in 2008. I don't even know if it's around now. But,
I believe you
but
buy
they,
this.
they had this sort of way that you could go in and go, okay, I want these topics by this state, by this title.
Yes.
And I sort of thought, well, if people could say whether they wanted newspapers or web, and then they start going. So that was kind of that it would feed them along, and then it would say, okay, I think on mailing lists it used to say, okay, you've got 15,000 contacts, how do you want to cull it down? And you could sort of play around with it from there. So that had been my idea.
Okay, the concept was really about buying lists.
And nothing to do with the whole process. So what we do now is we take people from naming their campaign to building their media contact list to putting a media release together, and it's upload your logo here and put your headline in here, onto building your own media list based on sort of a way of guiding you. But the other way, one of the things is that you download a list, and so therefore you don't really need to come back. Or if you do, you might sell it to you might say to your mates, let's all go thirds and we'll share it. So I wanted to make people stick, because I do keep prices really, really low. So I was really worried about people in the really early days when I first did it, people could download an Excel spreadsheet, and I was trying to find out whether you could have downloads that would expire. That was so new back in those days, but it was like, can we do something so that if they've only paid it, they get it for 6 months or something. So
So that was the thinking. So it was all about buying lists, getting access to the contacts you need to publicise your media.
And then, and with the first one, and then it was read the page about how to, and why PR is good for you, and the 4 steps to running your own PR, and just follow the process.
It was more of a serve yourself model.
It was definitely, well, I mean, it is still in a lot of ways, but it was very like that. And in fact, a guy who did it, who's now my boyfriend, I remember went through the whole website, obviously because he was a bit besotted with me, and went through the whole website and rang me and went, well, I don't know whether you want to hear this, but I've now got absolutely everything that I need to run a PR campaign, and I haven't had to pay a cent. Is that what you want? And I went, no. Oh, really? I don't think everyone would do what you do, but the reality was that, I was kind of leaving it wide open, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and that's the challenge when you walk into something like this. You don't know what you don't know, even don't know what the best approach might be.
That's right.
In the early days, did you just take the idea from overseas that they were selling lists and thought that was a brilliant idea, a concept, let's bring it here? Or did you contact some people, ask some customers? How did you approach it?
What did I do? First, I went to the woman in the UK and said, I kind of like the idea. Do you mind if I do it here? And she said, fine. She was very much in that mumpreneur space that was just taking off then. Then we were doing a lot of, that was when Facebook and had started having sort of communities, and there were forums out there.
Groups,
and I remember we were very much in the parenting space, and there was a forum, I can't even remember what it was called now, but it was based out of New Zealand, and it had hundreds, if not thousands, of people that were in the parenting space running businesses. And so I put a few posts up there saying, this is what we're thinking of doing, what do you think? And we just got loads of feedback saying, oh my God, that's amazing, that's just what we want. In fact, I've had that all my life, all the life of this business. Unfortunately, people go, that's great, but they don't necessarily buy. So the process of trying to make it really attractive for people to kind of launch and give it a go is very different. I love the concept of that, and I love the theory of it.
So you did some market research in the space for Facebook.
Very sort of anecdotal kind of going. I mean, I guess, and I've learned the hard way that that's probably not right, but I do a lot by my gut instinct, and I just felt like it was right. And even when I split with my business partner with the agency and decided to focus on it full time, and she went, oh my God, you've chosen the wrong company. I was like, I just know it's right. And even to this day, we still haven't, we're still not huge, but I still know that it's right. And there's no one else in the world doing it.
That's a point of difference, right? So if you can be unique in this world, that's generally a better place to stand on than do what everyone else is doing. Have 100 competitors. You don't want to.
It's challenging though. I mean, I remember when we launched the SaaS platform. Even because I'm obviously in PR, we got lots of publicity. And when it hit Mumbrella and the Sydney Morning Herald, we got a lot of pushback from PR agencies going, it is irresponsible of you to be doing this, and journalists are busy enough, they don't need to have it. And of course, our customers or potential customers, the small business owners, were going, this is awesome, we love it. But in the industry,
so you
I don't know whether I made a few enemies and a few journalists who kind of went, we don't want to talk to non-professionals. And I'm like, well, you don't have to go on my list.
Yeah, just ignore the system.
That's right.
So, and then you had this digital this digital marketing guy. How did you get approached by him, or did you approach him originally?
No,
to look
I
at the
met
platform?
him. I met him at a think tank. He was the
Okay.
digital marketing guru, and I was the PR guru.
Yes.
And he had said to me that he'd tried the platform with a previous client,
Okay.
and that he really loved what I was doing, and that it was amazing. And I think I said to him under my breath, "That's great. I wish I could make some money with it." And he said, "Oh, I can help you there."
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we hooked up at first.
Yeah, and was that the person that took you from the problem to delivery?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, well, yes, from the problem to halfway to delivery, I would
Okay.
say.
So he basically came on board, said it would cost $10,000 to get you to X position.
He thought roughly.
He thought roughly,
To be
yeah.
fair, it
Yeah.
wasn't. He wasn't quoting to do the work.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
angling to come on board, which he did as an
Okay.
equity partner.
Oh, so he came on as a partner, and then you worked on this together.
And then we ended up
Yeah.
paying him anyway. So it was sort of a really stupid
Interesting.
thing. And then when we ran out of money, which is for me, and I guess I've bootstrapped a few businesses now, I said, so now's when we roll up our sleeves
Yes.
and, have to put the hard yards in. He said, oh, no, I don't do that. If you don't have the money to pay people to do it, then I'm out of here.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So but didn't want to get the back on the wall and basically fight
Yeah.
through that. So now you've been in you're in a position where you've gone through, you've invested in the product. Was he managing and developing the product? Were you a part of that process? How did you...
Well, a bit of both,
Bit
I
of both,
guess. So
okay.
he was working from home and managing people overseas, and we were
Okay.
talking 4 times a day about, what they were developing
Yes.
and what was happening. And because the other thing is that if you, as developers, and you would know, you know your stuff, but you don't know my stuff. So
Correct.
Yep.
I was spending a lot of time saying that's not the way that people do PR, and we need to add this extra step because it's really important. One thing that if I rebuild, which I will do sometime soon,
Yes.
I'd like to do is I've made it that you go on and build your media contact list and then you write your release. I'd like to flip those steps.
Okay.
Okay.
Just because I think intuitively that's how people do it, but
Yes.
I mean it works as it is, but it's just you learn
It's
things
learning
along
as
the
you
way.
go,
Yeah.
right? And I think we
But
always
and
constantly
and there is something really weird when it's sort of like women and car mechanics as well, when you don't really know what's possible and you don't know what's an expensive change and what's a not expensive change. And in hindsight, I wish we had planned the whole thing, but I just kind of left it with him.
Yep.
But if we had sort of said, okay, well, we'll launch with these pages and then we can
Yes.
add these bells and whistles later, that would have been really good.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, it opened up my eyes to a whole lot of apps that I didn't know were available and a whole lot of sort of capabilities that I didn't know that you could do. I mean, I really thought that something like this, I guess I probably thought it did cost about 100,000 or 150,000.
Get it.
But if someone had said to me that, I would have gone, no way in a pink fit would I have
Started
spent
the
that
process.
money.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
as you start going along, you can say, I mean, I think I probably overspent possibly by half. But if somebody had said to me, you should do this, but it'll cost you 75 grand, I still would have said no way.
Yeah.
No way.
So it's
But you
funny,
probably-
isn't it?
It
It's just
is.
that, but I would have paid 2 grand for concepts and 4 grand for this and 3 grand a week, you know.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
just laying it out there
Yeah.
as a big lump sum would have terrified me, I think.
Yeah, when you're out of the area of your expertise, it's always overwhelming.
And
Same
you
with
don't know
us
whether
and
you're being
everything
ripped
else.
off.
No,
Is really
that's-
the crunch, I think.
And
You
it's-
just have to really trust these people, or this person that they're
Yeah.
making the right decisions.
And we find that's very easy to happen in the tech and software space because
And
it's a very, very specialized area.
It is, and I think in his case, he loved all the new developments that were coming out. So when we ended up taking over the platform and going back into it, I think there was something like 40 apps or something, 25 to 30 apps that he had plugged into the back end, of which we were
Okay.
probably using 3 or 4.
Okay, so just
putting
So there was a lot
everything
of
into this
subscriptions
thing,
I
yeah.
was able to just cancel
Okay, so
straight
anything
away.
new and shiny. you'd
Yeah,
jump into
yeah,
it.
totally. So, there's this widget we can do for Chatbox, and I mean, God, if bots had come out, then we would have started all
Started
over
over.
again. So there were
Okay.
there was lots of things that way. And then the other thing that was interesting is that I meet people a lot through doing my PR. So we got lots of opportunities. So we did get a free chat bot thing,
Okay.
whatever the technical term is for it. And we got the use of some free software and stuff along the way in return for me doing PR for them and things like that, or helping them with PR.
Okay.
So that kind of helped. But if I had had an overall plan, I probably would have been able to go, I know someone that could help us with that bit. We could do an exchange there or whatever, which I didn't know at the time.
So at the time, you're basically walking in to a development pretty much blind. You're saying, okay,
Yeah.
we're trying to achieve this and let's just build and build and build. Is that
Yes.
the approach?
And then
That, well, yes, in hindsight, that totally was the approach.
and you had someone you're meant to be relying on, who was meant to be your technical guide,
Yeah.
effectively.
Who, I mean, we did do one of those disc personality things, I remember, halfway through, and I went, how strange, look, both of us are almost exactly the same.
Interesting.
And we're both big, broad, shiny, creative, kind of exciting people, and I think in hindsight that he was just kind of like getting bogged down in too much technical and wanted to move on to the next shiny thing. Whereas I had to end up becoming more knowledgeable about things than I had thought I would.
So you went through that process, you got to a point where you basically ran out of money, and now you're in a position where you got half a platform that's not really working, and you started reaching out for help.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you went to a friend. What did you do there?
Oh, look, I said to him, I just don't know what to do. And as I said to you, he had said, well, let's make some money so we can employ people to fix the bugs. So that was the main thing. So once we got the money in the bank, we started in little steps. Firstly, we needed to make it stable.
Yes.
So we ironed out as many bugs as we could. We communicated a lot with that great database of 80 people who'd all paid and were kind of supportive. And we started slowly making changes and then using it. And then I run some training programs. So that was very nerve-wracking because we decided we'd run some live events where I would bring in journalists and we'd teach people how to do PR.
Yep.
And that meant that we'd have 10 or 12 people on the platform at the same time doing the same thing, which, of course, the first few, I used to have to bring a tech guy in because they'd go,
manage it.
The photo won't upload, or this thing won't work, or this, or, I can't change the text here. And I'd be like, I haven't got a friggin' clue how to help you. So I've been doing it for 2 years, those accelerators now. The first few were very nervy for me, just around not knowing, because the other thing was we ended up taking the guy who developed the platform, the PHP developer in the Philippines. We've kept him. And so I would just say to him, look, I'm going to be running an accelerator. It's going to be Monday afternoon, so Monday morning, they're all going to get on. Be ready for me to send texts. And I would be sending texts a lot then. I remember the highlight of the bugs was when some woman who wasn't particularly friendly with us had downloaded a list of 1,500 journalists, sent it all out to them, which you would never do in a pink fit, really. Sent it out to all of them, and it doubled up, and then it tripled up, and it started sending the same journalist the same email, and then the same email, and then she contacted me saying, oh my God, I'm going to ruin your reputation everywhere. I cannot believe it. You've destroyed my reputation with journalists, all this kind of thing. And I remember saying, I was just like, oh shit, what do you do now? And so I rang the guy firstly in the Philippines and I was like, whatever happens, stop it, just stop it now and just close it down. So he did that. We've now got a cancel button on the website, but at the time it was like, oh my God, trying to get hold of him. And I ended up saying to this woman, look, tell the journalists it was my fault. So God love her, she was such a cow. She went out to all the journalists, CC'd me in on all of them, saying this is not my fault, handle your own PR, takes full responsibility. They were the ones who were unprofessional, and I followed up all of them with an oops, I'm really sorry, it was a technical glitch. And all the journalists came back going, we understand, that happens to us all the time, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, I had almost not slept for 2 days and so anyway, so learn the hard way. And I completely overreacted. I think I said to the woman, I'll give you the whole database, you can have it for free, just, get off my back kind of thing.
Or in that time, you're looking just to solve the problem, and you can't solve it, it's done.
And you've got to do it quickly when you know there are emails going out every minute.
Especially when it's like that.
And you can't get hold of the guy.
It
was a nervy day. So that was probably the worst part of it. That one, and we had a change that happened in WordPress the year. So I had split up with that guy in the September. We did the big campaign in the January, and so had some money in the bank. And I think it was February or March that WordPress started going down every single day. And I didn't know what it was. So I went back to the original guy and said, even though I haven't spoken to you for months, can you tell me who created the front end so I can do it? And he said, that'll cost you $750 if you want to speak to him. And I didn't have the money. And I remember I was just like gutted. I thought, what am I going to do? And then we got someone off Upwork or something to have a look at it and said, oh, there's a new plugin or something for Word, whatever it was, something was clashing. But every morning I'd go on the website and everything would be gone other than a testimonial for a customer on each page. And that was it. Well. I was like, oh my God. Not the platform, I have to say. That was the WordPress. But I mean, because I'm a Neanderthal when it comes to technology. You're only looking at the front of the website. Like, I don't care that the platform's there. No one can get to it because they're just going to go, oh, it's all broken. Yeah, so...
So obviously had your challenges, clearly. Now, in terms of number of years, so you basically started this out what year in terms of building this new platform?
The new platform was 2014, I think.
Okay, and how long has it taken you to really
No, it must have been 2015. We launched it in May 2017.
All right, so it took a couple of years to get stable.
No. So I must have sold the house in 2014, built it in 2016, late 15, 16. It wasn't a long... I think that probably the whole build, in terms of the basics, because obviously I'm still working on it, but I would say it was a year, maybe 18 months.
Okay, 18 months. Now, in terms of that whole process, if you were to go back, what would you approach differently? What would you do a little bit differently just to shape the model?
I would have a strategy. I would have a plan with timings on it, like people normally do.
Yeah.
I'd have some costings against. I don't know whether I would have costings against it in the, just for me personally.
Yeah, they might scare you
I
off.
just don't know that wouldn't scare me off. But I definitely have. These are the initial steps we need to take. This is the plan. I'd probably get it quoted from a couple of agencies. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Although I'm not, I am a big one for if you really like someone. That to me is probably the most important thing. If I like someone and trust them, but I mean, obviously that has not always worked out the best. But I still
always
kind
work out the best. But yeah, you can sometimes go off your gut.
I mean, I look at. I mean, because to me, if I get 3 quotes, I'm still looking at 3 quotes of gobbledygook. So all I can do really is look at the end amount, and the end amount, if it's different, I can't really work out.
What the difference
I mean, I'm
is.
not saying that in hindsight, I guess you'd get maybe somebody to help you with that, but I'd be more inclined to work with a company, but and look at different possibilities. But I definitely would have had a plan for what we're trying to achieve and how it might look. And I would have loved some wireframes and things, and we were kind of doing it on, he would send it to me saying, I just worked up this last night, have a look at it, and I'll get the guys to implement it today.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Very quick, very active development.
quick.
As you thought of things.
Yeah. And then he'd have built something, and I go, but I forgot to say that you can't do that bit until you've done this bit first. You need to add another step in. And he'd go, oh my God. And I remember there was this big deal that he had all the people follow steps as they go through the PR process, and we had them all down the left-hand side of the page, and then he went, no, I think they'll be better across the top, which has caused us all sorts of problems for mobile. So the other thing I would say is think about what, the execution and how it's going to look across all the different platforms. And we had it was working really well on Chrome, but it wouldn't work on Firefox and had bugs in Safari, so I didn't kind of understand all that. I'd also have it tested properly by users before I went out and announced to the world that it was there.
Get it.
There's a lot of things to consider that we sometimes forget about those things. There's so many boxes you have to check off.
And you're working, in reality, you're working very agilely.
Incredibly. Because also technology is changing as you're doing that. And the expectations of your customers change. And then as you become more aware of what bells and whistles you can add to it, you start wanting to add them, and then you read something else or you see someone else's and you go, that bit's really good. I wonder if we could do that. And,
Yeah, it's even very hard for us to not jump onto the new shiny thing on every project.
You have to sort of pare yourself back a little bit because we can get a little bit lost in new stuff, but we still haven't finished the concept of the core product, right?
Yeah.
So I think Anthony released an article about this, which is really about scope creep. And in reality, what you're doing in that framework is you're pushing your project and you're making it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're moving the finishing line all the time.
That's why things never go. Yeah, I mean, I worked in graphic design for many years, and I know that, but it's so stupid when it applies to you.
Yes.
So, I mean, we would always go, okay, these are the concepts, and, we can change them, but let's work within a framework, and you just try and bring people down to a pointy end, but I didn't do that with myself.
I think it probably seems a bit harder in the software space because it's very technical and it's all over your head, so you don't know what an impact something may have, or if someone says something, if that's the right thing.
I think the impact is really important. I think you really don't know whether, if you were to change that step from 2 to 3, will that make any difference? And you think all you need to do is just, rename
Seems simple,
it.
doesn't it?
And they're going, I know, but I've just coded, for the last 3 days, this stuff that takes people from step 2 to 3, and I've got to go, and you go, oh my God, So, and then other times I might say, gee, it'd be really good if, people could put a video in there, and they go like, no problem at all. We just have to add, .mp4 or something after some coding, and I'm like, so you just really don't know what you don't know. It's intimidating.
I think it's really assessing. So one of the models that we use within our framework is really value versus effort, and it's really good and clear for people that aren't technical, and a great way to look at it, because you can assess. You might have a feature or function. One might be video. So what's the value to the customer?
So how do you? So what do you mean when you say value versus cost? How do you work out what the value is?
Versus effort. So value really is all about how it relates to the customer. So if a video is real, you would estimate a video on importance, but you wouldn't estimate the features in isolation. You might have a bunch of 20, 30 features, and you base value based on what the impact it's going to have to the customer.
So how do you, I'm just really interested in this, so how do you work out, because I have heard somebody else talk about this as well, and I've been surprised that you've been very focused on the end user, on the customer.
Yes.
Do you research that a little bit once you know what industry somebody's trying to get into, so that you can see, because I think that's fascinating, and I didn't realise that companies did that. So if I said to you, my customers are mainly 45-year-old women that are, decided that they, they've been made redundant, or they've started a business and they want to keep going, you would go out and say, well, those kind of women are on these platforms. They love video. They don't love video.
They need to know what they want,
really?
What they do.
So you can actually kind of, you offer guidance and advice.
Survey people, and then we also would, if we're working with you, we would try and become as knowledgeable in PR as we could.
Yes.
Right.
So then when we make suggestions or offer alternatives, we're coming from a place that makes sense, not just throwing things out randomly and saying, oh, maybe this would be good in PR.
Yeah, because the problem, when somebody knows a whole lot of technology, and I know my stuff really well, it's really hard to work out how to meld that together. So that's
if you're working,
so you do that kind of as an exercise before you even work out,
and that's really
what it should look like.
DevReady is. So the podcast is an extension of what we do. So it's really about educating people on all the upfront work that needs to be done. It is the strategy. It is the plan. It's ensuring that
it's the stumps on the house and the floorboards.
You're
the foundations. That's
in the foundation and the core.
All the unsexy stuff.
Yeah, and an unsexy model. Yeah, all the unsexy stuff that delivers you that first piece of platform.
That's right.
And that value versus effort is massively important, because if you're querying your customers and your end users and what's valuable to them, then you know where that stands, and the effort can come from your development team saying, this is what it's actually going to take. If you find that something is very valuable and very little effort, that's simply put into the product.
It's a two-pronged approach. You need to provide a value, and we have to provide the corresponding value to be able to get a full picture.
Right.
We can't do all, and you can't do all.
And then what happens when you finish? Because one thing I've learned as well is that they're never really finished.
They don't finish, no.
But what if they're not getting any sales on the back of it? Do you then relook at it and say, okay, so there's something we've missed here?
So in terms
or do you wait for the customer to come back, or how does that all?
In terms of sales, the sales become the product of the customer. So the customer or the client is responsible for the sales of the product. However, if there is a user problem, and there's a problem from perspective of how they're using it, we generally use analytics to monitor how users are using it, the behavior behind the system.
And you'll say they're dropping off on this thing.
And
might
we'll
need
get
to
an
change the copy,
understanding of what's happening in the model. So you might, for example, you talked about a wizard within your platform. You might have 6-7 steps in your wizard, and you might find that on step 4, people are dropping off and not completing, and we'll revisit and educate on why that is.
Right.
Talk to customers, talk to yourself, and then retweak that model. So it's a never-ending and learning experience. Really.
And then if it becomes...
which is another reason why you need to like the people that you're going to work
Correct.
with, because it ain't going to end.
The relationship is key. That it's a partnership. It's not a provider and value relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something really important for anyone who's about to launch into this kind of space to think about, that you are going to have a relationship with these people forever, really, as long as you've got the platform, probably.
Yeah. And you want it to be forever. If it's not, generally something bad's happened. So the experience hasn't been great. They haven't been delivering. They've been building spending too much money, potentially building the wrong things.
Yeah.
And that's generally when a relationship ends. If the relationship's ongoing for years, that's a great thing. That means you're earning money within your platform, you're able to reinvest into it, and you're working with the team that's helping you build that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so that's a framework. It's all about relationship in the end. We learnt this the hard way. We've been involved in many products. DevReady came about because we started seeing that customers weren't getting the uptake on products or the buying,
Right.
and we started questioning why. Why is that? We've built a great piece of tech. The tech works. It all was what they
Like
wanted.
yeah.
But
It
what
ticks
they,
all the boxes. Why isn't it working?
But what they wanted generally might not be what they actually needed.
Right.
What the customers needed in the first place to achieve the outcomes that they wanted. So it is a creative process. I think technology. I think people get stuck in the framework of let's just build some tech.
The nerdy side of
Yeah.
it rather
Yeah.
than the human.
Exactly. So the creative process is where you find all the little meat and all the little gold.
Yes.
That's
Asking
why I've
enough
become
questions.
intrigued by UX and CX because I
Yes.
just think I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
worked with anyone
Yeah.
specifically in that space,
Yeah.
and I think that is a very clever kind of
Yes.
industry or not industry. It's a very clever tech speciality to have because
It is because it uses psychology and brings
Yeah.
psychology into the play and what users are actually going to want
mm,
to follow through on
mm.
and how they're going to be engaged by this
And it's
platform.
even down to what size or colour buttons should be and where
Correct.
they should be on the page and how long they should be before
Yes.
they pop up and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, I find it.
Now, if you want like a good case
It's a
study,
science I know very little about.
if you want a good case study on something like that, read up on any sort of game that's
Right.
being made because it's all about that. How do you get a person playing the game as long as they can to spend
Yeah,
as much
right.
money as possible?
Yeah.
Because there's no tool. It's not a tool that doesn't provide them
I
any
think I'm
value.
nearly 4 years into Candy Crush, so they've done something.
Yeah,
right.
but
Even
they're
though
a
my
great
kids
example.
laugh at me.
Yeah, they're a great
$1
example.
billion business.
Oh, more than that.
More now, yeah. Yeah. So
So
they're
what did you say?
multiple billions of dollars they've made.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a huge platform, but it wasn't the first.
No, flight. What was it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I got the first one.
Yeah.
that flight connector or whatever it
Yeah.
was from the company in Richmond.
Yeah.
I just remember them doing it, and they made $1 million over
Yeah.
the first 3
Yeah.
months launch or
So-
something, and I could not stop landing planes and helicopters.
It's a game versus any
And
other
jumbo
app.
jets.
A game versus any other app where the app will give you value or a tool to do your job or
Yeah,
make you
right.
money. A game, you're spending your own time and your own money.
Yes.
That doesn't give you anything else besides entertainment.
Yeah.
So they really have to get that to the nth
That's
degree
that's
worked
a
out.
really interesting insight, actually. Yeah.
And I've had this chat on a previous podcast. His name's Kerry G. And one of the things that he realised was, how do we gamify with the platform we're building? Because that's where a lot of people are investing significant money for significant return.
Because I've heard the term gamify, but I didn't realise it could be used for sort of
It
business
can be used for
platforms
anything.
as
Yes, and
well.
normally it's points.
It's making people stick.
Yeah, and how do you then
Simple
like add
form is points, right?
points
Yeah.
and levels? All right,
Yes.
you've completed one wizard and you've done one PR. You've got 1 point.
Here's
You
your
now
patch
are
on the back.
yeah. Here's your little badge on the
Yes.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
right.
you're
And
a
if you
PR
continue
master, you've got 10 of
then
them.
you get this, and if you continue
Yeah.
later, you might get a little bit less. So,
Yeah, and then
you
if
know,
you've got like a
trying to
group
get-
forum, everyone can see everyone's little badges and they
might
know
have
what
to get
level of
somebody-
experience they have.
I might have to get somebody like that to look at my platform now.
Yeah,
It
it's
should add
always
value.
evolving. Yeah, so back to your platform a little bit. So you've obviously built a platform that's working. One of the key things I saw, which was really a masterstroke, was getting people to invest into the platform before it was really live. Now, how did that decision come about? You mentioned you spoke to
No,
someone.
it was live. It was live. But
Yeah.
It just had bugs in it, so they
Okay,
were
so
able
it
to
was
use it, and they
usable.
could see the
Yes.
potential, I guess, because
Okay.
it's. I mean, most people get on it. It's
Yes.
funny, you know. I've had
Yeah.
it for so long now. All I see are the issues, but
Yes.
people get on it
Yeah.
and they go, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And I go, "Really? But have you noticed that when you try and upload this thing here, it goes in upside down?" And they're like, "No."
No.
And you go,
Interesting.
and I'm thinking, why am I? We get so fixated on little things that I think everybody kind of jumped on it at the time. Back in 2017, there wasn't anything out there for small business. There still isn't
it.
really
Okay.
for small business owners to help them do PR.
Yeah, interesting.
But what it solves, on the one hand, is that it's a tool, is what I guess I realised, and that if you don't have the education and you don't know what you should be telling the media,
Yep.
then it's a bit hard. So, you know, I've spoken to some VC guys along the way, and they're very interested in the platform and very not interested in the training because they don't see the way that has the global expansion,
It's
which
not
I do. But
it can be scalable, and I think everyone's always keen on a SaaS product because
Yeah.
a VC can get 6, 7, 10 times return on revenue in a SaaS product. That's the numbers out there. So that is why they're keen on the product. So the tool, if you're delivering $1 million revenue, you could be worth 10 to $15 million in value.
Well, wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, so minimum 5 up to 10, 12.
But I guess what I think now, if I rebuilt, is I'd probably take some of the education which I've got in video form anyway, and start putting it into the platform. I'm not sure how that would work, but that's sort of my next iteration, is bring it all together. So therefore, it's a no-touch kind of product from the human point of view. And then if they want to, there are other ways they can do it. But at the moment, so when I first did it, I used to go, step 1, here's a whole lot of content. Step 2, here's a whole lot of content. Then I've gone into now nothing. So step 1, build your media contact list, all intuitive. The content of what you send out to the media is the bit that stumps everyone. They all go out wanting it. It looks like an ad.
How to formulate a response.
Well, it's how to turn your business into a story that someone wants to hear about, rather than you telling everyone how great it is that you've done such and such.
And that's an art form, isn't it?
But it is. Well, it's. I don't know that it's an art form. I actually think it's more of a process. That once you learn how to do it, it just comes naturally to you, but you just need to be taught how to do it.
Yeah, and art is a process anyway.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point that you raised there. So you've got this platform now. What's the vision for the business? What are you attempting to do?
My vision, my ultimate vision is to roll it out globally. So I have got one in the US. I had a business partner running it over there part-time. And she has now decided she wants out. So I've got the US sitting there kind of like, and I'll keep saying to my business partner, should we take it down? And he's like, no. So we just made the prices ridiculously expensive at the moment so that we can... so my idea is that I want it in Australia, England, India, South Africa, and the US, and then I want to sell. And I need to have local media contact lists in each of those countries for it to work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But other than that, and I want to crack the training somehow or other so that I know that if we get somebody to do it, that they've also got the means to teach people how to write in the right way. But there's all sorts of interesting things. So, of course, I've got a whole database of journalists. Journalists are literally just contacted saying, have we got your details correct? But I'm also very aware that in Australia and really around the world, but particularly in Australia, there is no real community for journalists. There is nobody courting the media. So I feel like there might be an opportunity to do something with that journalists as well and make... So I'd like to do something with that. I'd like to get the education into the platform. But ultimately, as it is right now, I reckon I can still grow it. I just need more users. I sort of identified that maybe the universities might be a good place for me to start going. And coincidentally, last year, through a complete freak, met the Dean of the Vic College of the Arts and Melbourne Uni's Music Conservatorium. And I'm also on the advisory board for RMIT's PR course. And both those institutions are now quite interested in handle your own PR being a tool that they can hand out to their students. Which has kind of opened up whole new markets for me where I'm kind of going. So it makes sense. I mean, I at the time I'd had a couple of drinks, but I said to the Dean, I think it's kind of irresponsible to be sending students out there who are artists and painters and sculptors and they don't know how to promote themselves because they're not easily going to be able to get a job. And unless they take off, the least thing you could do, and he was like, I totally agree. And then at RMIT, I said, you have so many courses that come out of this where they should just know how to do PR. You know, that's a free way for people to promote their business. And they're kind of going, oh, yeah, that's... And then I go, well, let me show you the platform. And they go, oh, my God, it's amazing. And so it's taking off from there. So I think I'll probably go really hard in the education sector.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is,
model,
isn't it?
Probably something you never thought of. So
it was one that I identified early on and thought, you know, how would you even get it in? And I wasn't sure how they'd use it. Now I can kind of see a much clearer pathway. And, of course, the other thing is universities they've got people doing PhDs and masters. So they've all done a whole lot of research and they need to get it published. I can help them get it published. And so that's become very interesting to them as well.
The benefit is they can alleviate some of the training concerns you have from your end because they're an institution developed for education.
I used to think it was perfect for startups, and it is perfect for startups, but startups just don't use it. They just don't spend the money. Well, that's been my experience, unless they're at a certain level. So
So what's
my
the
markets
value
are changing
in the
and
product?
things like that.
The value in the product is I know how to now publicise and get PR. The education is a part of the product, or is that an add-on to the product or the tool?
Yeah.
So the tool is giving you the education you need to actually get your PR out there and build your brand and awareness.
And I have got some education in there, definitely telling you what to do. But what I find is that, I mean, if I said to you now, do you want to write a media release and send it out to the media? People get really nervous. They just get really, oh my God, what if the journalist tells me to get lost? Or what if they hate it? Or what if I ruin my chances?
Yes.
And I'm kind of going, if you're writing for LinkedIn, you should be taking that and sending it out to the media first.
Interesting.
You know, it's that simple.
And I think the perception of that is it's something we don't know. And the same with tech for you. It's
of
like
course,
you don't
it's scary.
know it. It's scary. It's unknown. And you walk into a blind and you thinking, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
And you're probably judging one PR they might not
And
like.
people think it'll be like a current affair. They're going to have people chasing them down the street going, you are a loser, aren't you? You have ripped people off.
Well, there's that one website contacted us through LinkedIn. There was where journalists request topics and people fill in the content themselves.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called, but we wrote an article for one of those websites.
There's a tech one, actually. She's got me to write, and she does it all the time now.
Okay.
Do you get that? Yeah, it's some...
I think you're on it. I can't remember the name.
They put like 4 or 5 different people responses or even more.
Potentially, that's the one,
Well, this one, I get an email every day. They're asking, they're putting out a request from journalists or media agencies saying we need people with experience in blah. And you submit a request, a response.
Yes, I think I've done a little bit around PR for them.
Yeah, I get it.
For that one. But I mean, I'm talking about, I guess, if you were a startup, then to be in the Fin Review would be great.
Yes.
How to get in the Fin Review, you need to work out, how to do that. And I know that's sort of the sort of thing I help people. Or I'd like to be on TV, or I need radio interviews. So it's not about getting a bloggy. I mean, it's getting lots, I guess. So I sort of say to people, if you can get 25 or 30 articles published, then you will own your Google page. Anyone Googles you, they will just see loads and loads of articles you've written underneath that have been published, and it just gives you that credibility.
That's all.
And also, like anything else, you can't do one ad and hope that you're going to catch lots of people. You've got to do lots of articles as well. But you guys should be doing it as well, because you know a lot about stuff that people don't know.
Generating content on social stuff, but not pushing it out to anyone else.
Yeah, just push it out to the mainstream media. Because the more journalists that get fired, and another 400 got fired on Friday, or 1,400 I think it might have been, from AAP, or will be, the more the journalists that are left can't possibly write enough content, so they rely on people sending it to them. And you'd be surprised how quickly, if you go to the like IT Wire and people like that would love your stuff.
Yeah,
it's supposed to get on your list.
But the trick for me is a lot of people think about going into their industry media, but think about where your customers are. So if you want to get to someone like me, you don't write in IT Wire.
No, what about
you write in Startup Smart, or you write, so those are the kind of things that I help people with to say, if you're in the beer industry, then getting it in beer weekly and monthly froth is great, but that's not going to get to your customers. How can you get an article in Woman's Day or Marie Claire or the weekend newspapers or something like that?
You don't want to be featured to your peers.
That's right.
Useless, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do, and then they go, woohoo, we've got a publicist and they're getting loads of industry media, and you go, but are you getting new customers out of it?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a conversation we should have in another podcast talking about how to really do PR to grow your business. I think we'll get you back talking a little bit about that.
No problem.
Just to dive in a little bit what the steps are, understand a bit more about the specifics of the platform, how to write a PR article or whatever that may be.
Perfect.
I think it'd be great to actually talk about. So in terms of tech, so clearly you're not a tech person. No, you started out doing something with Conda, and then you're here with a SaaS product that you're actually selling to the marketplace.
And have for the last nearly 3 years, I guess.
How many users do you have on your platform?
I knew you were going to ask me that. See, I'm not great on all of those kind of stats. I've had about 2,000 have used it in the last, say, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of, but in the end, people want to know the paying ones. I think we have got something like 300.
Okay. So
I don't know, something like that.
So
but I make a lot of, really the cream for us comes out of running the PR Accelerator. And of course, they have to use the platform as part of that. And then once I've taught them, they get a year to keep sending media releases out. And what have you.
So the model is bring them through
and the
education.
Prices, my God, have changed so much. I mean, we started off, I think we started off saying it would be $97 a month. Then we went up to started off with $300 a month, then went down to $97 a month. Then I did $397 a year.
Okay.
I mean, talk about chopping and changing. Then we went up. Now we're at $890, I think, for a year, and to $350 for a quarter.
Okay,
something
so it's
like
always
that.
Changing. So how did you value your product? Because that's something
very
people
hard.
don't really know how to do. It's not easy.
Well, especially when you're doing something that no one else is doing.
Correct.
So, I mean,
that's
I
true.
know that people are paying between $3,000 and $5,000 a month, roughly, for a PR agency. So, how do you value it?
Yeah,
well, I
exactly.
started off thinking, well, if you pay 1 month's worth,
Yes.
you know, you'll be able to, then it's huge value, but it doesn't seem that way. So then I made it really cheap. And so I would say I'm still testing. I think we're fairly close to a sweet spot now. And the PR Accelerator program is $1,000 a month, so for 12 months, which I figure is, so it's the price of 3 months of PR if someone else did it for you.
Yeah,
but at the end of it,
$5,000 a month.
you've got a lifetime of being able to do PR, you know.
Yep.
So so I wouldn't say it's an exact science. I know that I actually have worked with a guy who has a business called PricingProfits.com.
Okay. Yep.
He is a pricing specialist. And even he, I don't think, would know how to price something like this, because it's just so weird. It's like, so the average small business owner spends about $10,000 on marketing.
Yes.
80% of them are doing it themselves. But then if you compare to an agency, they're spending $40,000 a year. So how do you price in the middle of it? And I have found that really hard all the way through, because people say it's worth so much more, and you go, well, if it's worth so much more, why don't I have loads more customers on it? You know.
Well, in
So
your
you go
world, the
round
target
and round.
customer's probably not going to be the one that's paying the $40,000 to the PR agency at all.
No, well, that was a moment of clarity where I went, maybe I shouldn't be comparing it to that. But it's certainly, if you looked at what you might be spending on social, $500 a month, $1,000 a month,
That's
about
something
right.
palatable for
And
someone out
obviously, and then obviously with your PR, once you put it on social, it kind of it's on steroids. It just goes out so much further.
It's more of a education problem. Explain to people this is what the benefit of this is.
Yes.
and
how it
the
improves
payoff
your
obviously
current.
is your time.
Yeah.
So you know, how much time am I going to have to spend if I'm going to do it, and you know, all that kind of thing. But
And
it's
being in small business and startup world, we generally don't have a lot of time. So how do you...
But then we also don't have money. So for a lot of people, so
Time,
that's
they
where
can
I had
find.
my dilemma for a lot of people is, are you prepared? But I mean, I now run the accelerators.
Yes.
So in 2 days we do 3 months worth of PR. So you spend a year with me, 8 days with me.
Okay.
You know, and you get some weekly mentoring online in your pajamas if you want to.
Nice.
As well.
I think you probably found it.
Yeah.
That basically the objective of your business is not the product or the tool. It is everything else around it that supports the customer through the journey to be able to deliver on the tool.
Yeah.
So if they don't have that education up front, they can't write a PR article, then they're not going to get any value out of the tool.
No.
So the tool is really worthless without everything else around it.
Yes, yeah. Well, I guess yes, unless you've come from a situation where you
unless
do
you've got the knowledge.
understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I sell ebooks with it and video sort of
Yes.
stuff as well.
But you need some knowledge base there to build it.
Yeah, the big mistake that everyone makes is, I want to announce that, you know, we've put on this new staff member or we've just taken on this new product. And it's like, no one's interested about you. I'm interested in me.
Yes.
So if your customer's interested in me, what does the product do for me? Not that you're having a sale or that it's got 5 widgets attached to it. It's what will the widgets do for me?
Exactly. It's all about them.
Yeah.
No one perceives it, but everyone really basically cares about themselves first.
Of course.
We all do what's in it for us, and then how do we impact others with that as well. So, but I think if we can let that go too, there's some real power in that.
Absolutely.
If you can actually let that go, it's why we put this podcast
Yeah,
together.
we're slowly-
It's about a free thing we're doing and putting out marketplace. We're obviously getting some value for us, but can we help one person, 5 people, 10 people save that 3 years, save that $100,000? There's a
And you
massive
will.
impact. Yeah, and you will just by
will.
sharing these stories.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
letting, you know, if people are out there thinking about doing a SaaS platform, I mean, the one thing I would say is go and talk to somebody who knows SaaS platforms and have a good conversation.
Yes.
And then go away and write a whole lot of questions on the back of that conversation, then go back and have another one and get an understanding of it, because they are amazing.
Oh, they are amazing, and the ability to scale is huge if you get it right, if you niche it right, if you market it right. It's still business. I think we build a tool like this, and some people get lost in, it's a tool, we'll put it on the internet and people come and buy it.
Oh, well,
That's
isn't that,
never
yeah,
gonna
I mean,
happen.
it's that whole thing of
Yeah.
we'll build it
Yeah.
and they'll all come. That was a real shock for me even
Yeah.
back in 2003 when all these people had been saying to us in forums, oh my God, we can't wait till you launch.
Yes.
And then we launched, we said, go and have a look at it. And they all went, oh my God, it's amazing, just
Yes.
what we need.
And zero
Crickets.
buys.
In terms
Yeah.
of sales,
Crickets,
crickets, you're going, hang on a minute.
What's going on here?
What are we doing wrong
Yeah.
that you're telling us you needed and
Yes.
we built it and you didn't come?
Yep. And, and that is a challenge that a lot of people go through. I think the biggest issue, and we've got a podcast, I'm not sure what episode it is, with Stuart Marshall around building SaaS products.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, is it 6?
Yeah.
All right. You've got a better memory than I do. And that leans into, it's not about technology, it's about how we niche it, how do we market it. In the end, in terms of just from where you are now, if you went three years back, what would you tell Jules of 3 years ago before you went on this journey?
I would. Oh, that's a really good question. What would I tell myself? I'd tell myself that that it'll be the best thing that you could ever do. Like, I have
Yes.
absolutely zero regrets, regardless of the journey and all the rest of it. It is easily the most exciting product I've ever had.
Yes.
It works beautifully. So I would say to myself, do it.
Yes.
Next time, choose someone different. Do it with a plan so that you know where you, because you could probably, and you guys would know better, but
Yes.
in hindsight, I probably could have released it in stages. Like,
could.
you could have done, it could have just been build a media contact list, then it could have been, here's a media release template. And we did do it in stages, but it was messy. We tried to do too much, I think.
It wasn't a structured
All at
process
once. There was-
into
yeah.
delivery, right?
And there was no sort of growth plan. There was no, when we are able to, we'll do this,
Yes.
or whatever.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's one of the things that I would do.
Okay.
But I would also say it gets easier and better, and more people are going to have them, so there'll be specialists out there
Yes.
that are going to know how to do it.
Yeah.
I also would, if I was telling myself, I would say don't, and only because of my learnings from, don't go directly to Upwork or Freelancer if you don't know what you're talking about,
Yes.
because those
Yep.
guys talk about needy. Like, they need to know exactly. I mean, I remember getting them to rebuild the front end of the WordPress site, and they did it in a live environment rather.
Lovely.
Oh,
Just
wow.
little things like, I didn't know to tell him,
Yeah.
go and do it on a staging platform, and then
Yeah.
when I've approved it, put it up. So,
Okay.
those kind of things I would say, and get a good team around you, and make sure you like them, because they're going to be around like family for a long time.
Brilliant, Jules. We'll end it there. Thank you for joining
My
us. Thanks for
pleasure.
sharing your
Thank you.
story, your journey so far, and a little bit about what you're up to. And how do people find out about you if they will?
They can go to handleyourownpr.com.au. So that's handleyourownpr.com.au.
Bit of a
Whatever it
mouthful
is.
there.
It's long.
Yeah, we'll put the links out
Like
when
the
we post
words.
it.
Yeah.
And don't go to the .com at the moment, because
Okay.
that is the US site and it's just sitting there.
Yes.
And also I've got this sort of TV show that people can contact me or watch me talk to fabulous women in business on tickertv.com.au.
Very good. Yeah, check it all out. And where are you socially active?
I'm very socially active on LinkedIn. In fact, I'm very hard to miss, I would say, with anyone that's connected with me on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Perfect. All right. So
No
we'll
problem.
share
I'm
those
trying to
links.
master Insta. Then someone
Yes.
told me the other day about Pinterest, which I thought was dead, and I went on there and went, oh my God, there's
No.
millions of people on there.
Yes.
And TikTok is the other one where
That's
I've just
new,
realised there's a
young
how-to
market.
section.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to start making some dance videos.
I know, but we all think the young market's all the kids,
Yes.
because my kids are kids, but I think it's older than that. I think
Yeah.
it's
Oh, it's going to evolve quicker than some of them.
huge
So,
opportunity.
yes.
At the moment, their how-to section, I read something that a woman had put up a post last week. She has 59 followers and she's got 65,000 views in 2 days
Wow.
or something on TikTok.
Yeah, so it's a good place to be putting some content. We'll
I
take
think
that.
so.
Yes, thanks, Jules. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.